So we have in one of our areas at Florida Daily, known as, we've been doing this for the last several years, called Florida Daily Investigations, where we'll go behind, we'll do a lot of investigations that our researchers find, that we get approached with. We've broken a lot of stories. Last year in Broward County, I'm just going to give you the 30,000 foot view. We broke some stories that got the attention of the governor, caught the attention of the CFO Blaze Angolia, where they go, we need to start doing some audits. Doge of the school systems out here. I am the biggest fan of Doging every one of these school districts instead of city and county government. I mean, they need to be Doge, government efficiency, what they spend money on. But we broke a story last year, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but I will tell you, Lindsay Randall is an expert on a lot of this, who oversees, runs these charter schools. And so, Lindsay, let me give you a little bit of the background, because we've got a big story. This is one of many that we're working on. It's always Broward County, by the way. Go figure, big blue county. But last year, what is known as staff, every time you hear elected official go, well, let me check with staff. That's beware, because staff is usually people that are just embedded into, there's no term limits on staff. They can be there for 20, 30 years. And Matt O'Hearn I know I was telling Matt this story, but last year, for all of you, we did a big story in Broward County where the staff of the local school district, when there was some things that needed to be farmed out, I'm giving you an example, like something that needed to be built or whatever. Normally, you advertise it, and then the 100+ offers that come in, you start looking at all this, and then you narrow them down.
Yeah, you get a few bids.
Right. Yeah. There are a lot of bids, and they didn't really do all the investigation. And so we questioned many of them, because some of them were questioned themselves, because some of these companies had done work in Duval County and other areas where they didn't get the highest ratings by the local school district, but somehow they were still able to get a contract. So either the staff didn't do their homework properly, or the staff is like, no, we're going to go ahead with these three. Boom, move on, next issue. That quick. I'm just giving you the roundabout. So the story now, as about almost a year later, that we have this out at floridadaily.com, is one of the district officials in the Broward County school districts. His name is John White. He's the district official responsible for procurement and logistic operations. Now, Lindsay, you know what the term is, because you learned it in Latin. You know what procurement means. Procurement, correct?
Procurement. Yes.
Procurement.
Yes.
Okay. Explain
we have to use.
audience.
Well, we have to use an RFP process, which is a request for proposal. And so
right.
I can't talk today either. So the RFP process it's significant. You have to, it's a way to get competition. It's a way to get several bids. You need at least three significant bids, 3 qualified bids. Take, for instance, our construction project that we did. So we built an 70,000 square foot upper school and 2 gyms. We had to do the RFP process. It's healthy to do an RFP process.
Right.
I actually was involved in another school that did not do an RFP process. And I don't think that they got the best price for what they got. Let's just put it that way. But really you're looking at your price, you're looking for their qualification, you're looking for, what's their experience and their capacity with all the other projects that they're doing.
Contracts, all these things have to apply to local school board policies. So the story that we have found that maybe this is not happening with John White in the Broward County School District. So what they did is basic questions. I'm not making this up. Evidently there was an affirmative procurement initiative. That keyword, Lindsay, affirmative. These are specific tools, bids, incentives, policy guidelines used by governments and organizations that, quote, help underrepresented, disadvantaged, or environmental sustainable businesses. In other words, it was called Supplier Diversity and Equity, a program that creates equitable access for small business, minority-owned, and women-owned businesses. Now, you sit back and go, Ed, what's wrong with that? No, don't get me wrong. I understand why that is. But the goal is to pick those that are qualified based on who's qualified, not based on the issue of race and or gender. So what they're asking, or what we've been asking here, now we're bringing it to radio, is that, okay, who determined who gets this? What evidence supported certain preferences? And did these people in Broward County, like John White, did they personally approve the solicitations? For example, the Supreme Court, and they have all of these guidelines when it comes to hiring and affirmative action. Like, for example, they did one of these studies where the African American, Hispanic, or white women-owned firms, the disparities about that, but the study did identify that there were substantial disparities involving Asian Americans, not Native American-owned firms. But the question is, if the procurement says that the disparity study justifies these measures, then okay, where did the contracts go? Who establishes the rules? And this is the big conversation we're having down in Broward County. For example, how did you pick these contracts, Lindsay? Was it based on the race issue, DEI? And then now, of course, as you know, James Uthmeier may have to get involved because the Attorney General here in Florida has stated a position that governmental racial preferences an emphasis involves serious constitutional concerns out there. So when you did it, Lindsay, on your end, I mean, if the person that got the contract, minority owned, but they were qualified, but you didn't do it based on race.
Yeah, I mean, it creates a fairness problem for people who are actually doing the work and doing a good job. If you're only basing it on what's on the outside, that's a perverse incentive for people to have a minority owned or a woman owned company. Taxpayers should not be paying more because the procurement process is trying to somehow engineer some outcome. That's like the worst thing you could do. Show me the product. We should operate as a meritocracy in this country. So an RFP should answer really one question: are you qualified to deliver the best product for your client? And if it's yes, then who the heck cares who owns it? Who the heck cares who is involved? Right. And if it's not based on that, then we've got other problems.
So, Matt, what we're doing is we're following up on this story because, as you know, the AG, James Uthmeier, is, he's one of these that doesn't like these preferential treatments. And we don't want to go out there. And from what we've understand with our investigation, and we got more stories coming out of FloridaDaily.com, did this Broward County school official go out and brag about, hey, we want to hire people totally based on DEI, which, in state government, Matt O'Hearn, is a no-no. That's right. What we're finding out. And then for what we're doing our research on is that he did that. And my question was, has the AG found out about it? And they're like, not yet.
Yeah. What's so frustrating about all of it is if you're a parent of a kid in public school in a blue district, whether it's Broward or like here in Orange County, is you see this same approach trickle all the way down to even some of the teachers that are in place, where you have someone who is not there because of their merits. There's no meritocracy used. There's someone who's either brought in there or kept there to maintain a certain quota that appeases the DEI crowd. And I've seen firsthand where that policy has negatively impacted not only a classroom, but specifically someone in my family. And when you try to push back against that, you're labeled as a racist for saying for calling out the fact that there are people or organizations that come in that are not fully qualified or the best available option. And unfortunately, power corrupts. And when you have these people in these positions, they think they can just get away with it because they think that they're surrounded by most people who will side with that approach. And unfortunately, it's one of the reasons we have so many of the problems we do with public schools.
Yeah. Lindsay, I got about 40 seconds on this one. Have you seen, you don't have to mention any names, but I don't believe this is the first time schools have gone out of their way to hire based on racial preferences, huh?
Of course not. No, we'd be living in putting our head in the sand if we thought that. But I think that this is why the state of Florida has just really gone after DEI and really gone towards meritocracy. So we need to get the best products. We need to get the best people for our kids because ultimately they're worth it. And taxpayers should have fairness, and we should be using tax dollars appropriately.
Lindsay, I kid with you a lot, but you are the expert on this. I love listening to you talk. I mean, Lindsay sounds like an engineer in these issues, man. She just doesn't look like one. Thank gosh. All right. All of this you can read again at FloridaDaily.com. Again, that's FloridaDaily.com.